You can have your
Main event of the evening.
motorcycle humps, ready to race to you.
These days are
Hello and welcome to These Days Are Ours, a Happy Days podcast. I'm Peter.
And I'm Joe.
And today we are discussing the pilot for Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, Love and the Old-Fashioned Father, starring Tom Bosley.
Okay, Peter, tell us what happens in Love and the Old-Fashioned Father.
Harry Boyle is an average American guy who loves his family, his financially unsavvy wife Irma, his unemployed college graduate son Chet, and his rebellious teenage daughter Alice.
I gave her money for a dress and she comes home with seat covers.
After Harry harangues Chet for not cutting his shoulder-length hair, the family has breakfast. Irma reminds Harry to get home from work early. Alice is bringing a boyfriend home. Irma is even calling up Mary, a maid, to help serve dinner tonight.
Why all the fuss over this boy?
Well, Alice told me how she feels about him.
Alice really likes this boy. Harry is dismissive since Alice isn't even 18, and Irma reminds him that she got married at 17. Harry claims she's always been old for her age. At dinner that night, Harry and Irma get dressed up, but Irma turns down Harry's offer of a drink. The doorbell rings, and Alice's boyfriend Bob enters, greeting Harry by giving him a flower and telling him good love.
Good love, everyone. Good love and yellow sunsets.
Irma downs a drink. While Alice shows Bob upstairs, Irma tries to convince Harry to at least give Bob a chance, since Alice clearly sees something in him. Over hors d'oeuvres, the Boyles learn that Bob is majoring in humanities and speaks 7 languages. He plans on traveling the world to help the underprivileged, which Harry doesn't much care for, especially since Alice and Bob call money worthless.
Our generation realizes how truly worthless money really is.
How did money get such a lousy reputation?
According to Harry, behind every kid knocking materialism is some poor materialistic father working his tail off so he could hear how rotten he is. Over dinner, Harry and Bob butt heads some more. Bob is condescending to Mary, who is black, and not particularly impressed by him.
If you really love me, then don't help.
Alice takes Bob outside, where she admits she hasn't told them about her plans with Bob, but promises to do so now. While Harry rants to Irma about Bob, Alice enters, and Harry immediately calms down. She asks if she can go water skiing that weekend, which her parents initially agree to, only for Harry to change his mind when he learns she'll be going with Bob and another couple, Ted and Carol.
Ted and Carol and Bob and...
Right.
Wrong.
Harry spends the night angrily pacing the kitchen, ranting about sex in the movies and what boys want when they go on weekends with girls. Irma thinks Harry is being too harsh, and Harry says his own father would have flattened Alice. Irma accuses Harry of enjoying being miserable, and Harry says being miserable is the only pleasure he's got. The next day, Alice keeps asking Harry about going water skiing, but he keeps saying no. Chet points out that Harry lets him go away for weekends, but that's different because boys don't get pregnant. Alice reminds her father that she takes sex education in school, and Harry says he doesn't want her doing homework. When Irma tries to step in, Harry shouts her down, and then shouts Alice down. Later, Irma tells Harry they need to give Alice an alternative. Outside, they spot a neighbor's son, a clean-cut young man who works for a dry cleaner, and decide to set him up with Alice. Alice reluctantly agrees to go out with him that night.
Now, I don't want you to hold it against him because he's got a haircut and his shoes are shiny.
Only to come home a mess from rejecting his advances. Harry wants to kill him, but he still won't let Alice go away for the weekend. Alice says that if Carol Harris is going, so is she. The next day, Harry carpools with his right-wing neighbor Ralph Kane, who tries to get Harry to join his vigilante group.
Well, we went on maneuvers last weekend. We are trained and ready.
According to Ralph, there's a communist, mafia, Jewish, Negro, Puerto Rican, Japanese, Mexican, liberal, Catholic conspiracy, along with all of the college kids and everybody on welfare, to take over the country through pornography and fluoride in the water. Harry is not impressed. 2 days later, Alice has been giving her father the silent treatment. Chet suggests Harry and Irma talk to Carol's parents, since they're letting her go, so Harry and Irma visit the Harrises. Mr. and Mrs. Harris are a pair of trend chasers, wearing younger fashions, speaking in slang, and burning incense.
The way I see it, times have changed, and we gotta change with them, man.
Yeah, that's right, honey.
You mean like you? With that stupid outfit you're wearing?
When the topic of wife swapping comes up, the Boyles depart. The next morning is Friday, and Alice informs her mother over breakfast she won't be there for dinner. Harry threatens to lock her in her room.
You wouldn't dare.
Irma, you have your orders.
When Harry gets home from work, Chet isn't there, having gone to a basketball game, and Alice isn't there either, having phoned Irma that she would be going straight from school away with Bob and her friends. Harry decides to see if she's still at the Harrises. Ralph, assuming Alice has been kidnapped, decides to organize his vigilante group.
Hello, Charlie. We've got a condition red. Condition red.
Harry is too late, being informed by Mr. and Mrs. Harris that Alice has already left with Carol, and they don't know what lake they went to. When Mr. Harris tries to tell Harry what kids today need, Harry replies that what they don't need is a cool father and a hot mama. Then he knocks Mr. Harris back into his chair.
And if anything happens to my daughter, that's just the beginning, baby.
Harry returns home, unable to eat or sleep. He spends the night in the living room, waiting for Alice. Sure enough, she comes home in the wee hours of the morning. Harry was right about what Bob really wanted.
I thought we were going water skiing, but
You don't have to say it, honey.
And Alice apologizes to her father. Then Ralph shows up with his vigilante group, ready to look for the no longer missing Alice. Then Harry starts to complain about Chet, who still isn't home at 2 a.m.
Wait till I get my hands on that boy. Irma, I tell you, we're too easy on these kids.
Thank you, Peter. That was Love and the Old-Fashioned Father. It first aired on Friday, February 11th, 1972. Like Love and the Happy Days, this pilot was also shown on ABC's comedy anthology series Love American Style. Other segments shown that night were
Love and the Bachelor Party, Love and the Latin Lover, and Love and the Test of Manhood.
Love American Style was preceded by a new episode of The Odd Couple, in which Felix volunteers to be a big brother to a troubled youth, who then asks Felix's daughter out on a date. CBS aired the made-for-TV horror movie Crawl Space, about a childless couple who adopt a strange young man they find in the crawl space of their home.
Mrs. Graves worries that it's damp in the crawl space.
This was followed by a new episode of the short-lived sitcom The Don Rickles Show, in which the comedian plays a frustrated New York ad exec. In this episode, Don's daughter appears in a TV commercial against his wishes. Worse yet, the commercial is filmed in his home, and NBC aired Two Mules for Sister Sarah.
The most exciting Clint Eastwood movie ever made. Clint Eastwood, Shirley MacLaine in Two Mules for Sister Sarah, rated GP.
A 1970 Western in which Clint Eastwood plays a Civil War soldier who saves a nun, played by Shirley MacLaine, from a group of bandits. So, Peter, of those choices, what are you watching?
I just want to point out that tonight we seem to have the accidental recurring motif of father-daughter conflict. I don't know if that says something about what everyone was thinking about at the time, or if it was just a big coincidence. Anyway, I am watching The Odd Couple. I love that episode. It's so good.
I am definitely watching Crawl Space. I love made-for-TV horror movies from the 1970s. Love and the Old-Fashioned Father was directed by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. These two gentlemen met as animators at MGM in 1937 and formed a creative and commercial partnership that lasted the rest of their lives. At MGM, they were best known for their work on the Tom and Jerry series. In 1957, they formed their own studio and began producing material directly for television, starting with Rough and Ready. This led to literally dozens of other shows, including classics like The Flintstones, The Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, and countless more. William Hanna died in 2001 at the age of 90. Joe Barbera died in 2006 at the age of 95. And just a few months after Love and the Old-Fashioned Father aired on ABC, Hanna and Barbera launched a first-run syndicated show based on it called Wait Till Your Father Gets Home.
wait till your father gets, until your father gets, wait till your father gets home.
I remember watching this on Cartoon Network, but were you familiar with it? Did you ever watch it?
I had never watched this before. I had heard of it, and I had heard that it was the first adult animated show. I had heard that it was kind of like an animated All in the Family. Now, having watched this, I can say that that's sort of true, kinda.
It was written by Ray Allen and Harvey Bullock. Ray and Harvey were writing partners for decades. They worked on such series as
The Dick Van Dyke Show, The Andy Griffith Show, Gomer Pyle, Hogan's Heroes, The Flintstones, The Love Boat, and many more.
They also wrote such films as Who's Minding the Mint, Girl Happy for Elvis Presley, and A Man Called Flintstone.
A man called Flintstone.
Unfortunately, Ray died in 1981 at the age of 57. Harvey's career slowed down considerably after that, but he did co-write the 1986 made-for-TV movie Return to Mayberry. He died in 2006 at the age of 84. And I would say that this episode we watched was very much grounded in traditional sitcom-style writing. Would you agree or not?
Absolutely, yes. This very easily could have been filmed as a live-action show without changing too much. That being said, I don't want to downplay the animation in this. It's this very appealingly blobby animation. The characters all have very simple designs that are still very evocative. Harry's face is just, he's got an oval for a head, he's got a big round nose, and he's got a few hairs on his head, and it works very well. It conveys who he is very well. There are not a lot of backgrounds in this episode. What they'll do is they'll have a big blank background, and then just whatever you need to convey where they are right now. So like, Harry will be in the bathroom, so there'll be a mirror and a sink, and he'll be brushing his teeth, and that tells you, okay, he's he's not just standing in the void, he is in the bathroom. And it actually makes for some very fluid scene transitions. And there's also just a very lovely scene where Harry and Irma, they've just left the Harrises, and it's drenched in dark blue because it's night. There are these bright yellow lights for the street lights, and it's just this very beautiful, moody moment, and it suits the fact that this is a genuine, sweet moment between Harry and Irma, when mostly their dynamic so far in this episode has just been Harry yelling.
As for our main cast, we have to start with Tom Bosley as Harry Boyle.
You go to the pictures, and the only time you see clothes are hanging over the back of a chair.
When he did this show, Chicago actor Tom Bosley was in the middle of a lengthy career in theater, film, and television that lasted from the mid-1950s until his death in 2010 at the age of 83. This was Tom's first major voice acting gig, but it was far from his last. He also worked on Yogi's Gang, The Stingiest Man in Town, David the Gnome, Johnny Bravo, Rugrats, and more. Peter, what did you think of Tom Bosley as Harry Boyle?
This role is 85% shouting, and Tom Bosley plays that very well. And I think he also plays the quieter moments very well, too. He can have these little moments where he actually connects with his wife, and where he actually connects with his daughter when she comes home. And for once, he's not trying to make her feel worse about what happened. And I did appreciate that. That being said, I've seen people compare this to All in the Family, and it kind of is. I would say that this is like if All in the Family was on Archie Bunker's side. In spite of the fact that Harry is supposed to be a funny character, he also gets these moments where we are unequivocally supposed to pump our fists and go, hell yeah. Like when he goes on his rant about materialism.
Behind every kid knocking materialism, there's some poor materialistic father working his materialistic tail off so you can sit around and tell him how awful it is.
Or when he knocks out Mr. Harris for being a douche. I did feel kind of distanced from him because of that. Unequivocally, he is supposed to be right, and he is proven right at the end that Bob is a no-good hippie bastard, and Alice should have stayed away from him from the start. Also, apparently he married Irma when she was 17. Harry, how old were you when you married Irma? What's the story there?
I wondered about that. As you pointed out, the show is usually on Harry's side. So yes, this is like an alternate universe version of All in the Family, where Archie is right about everything. As we've seen on Happy Days, Tom Bosley often plays a grumbling, grousing father who's always agitated and yelling, and they get to turn that up to 11 on this show. We also have Jack Burns as Ralph Kane.
The commies and the mafia have gotten together with the Jews, your Negroes, and your Puerto Ricans.
Jack was a comedian, actor, and writer from Boston who worked extensively in film and television from roughly the 1960s to the 2000s. In the 60s and 70s, he was half of a very successful comedy duo with Avery Schreiber. He later wrote for The Muppet Show and The Muppet Movie, plus Hee Haw and other shows. He even hosted Saturday Night Live in 1977 and lent his voice to numerous PSAs as a crash test dummy who encourages viewers to buckle their seatbelts.
I'm just tired of trying to convince people to wear safety belts. No one's listening.
But classic TV fans probably know him best for his half-season run as Warren Ferguson on The Andy Griffith Show. Jack died in 2020 at the age of 86. Peter, what did you think of Jack Burns as Ralph Kane?
Ralph Kane is very obviously meant to look like Richard Nixon. He's there to make Harry look less conservative by comparison. Because yes, Harry might hate hippies with every fiber of his being, but at least he is not a deranged conspiracy theorist vigilante like Ralph. I think that Ralph's inclusion here is interesting because it does kind of illustrate the polarization of the 1970s. On the one hand, you have this leftist movement that is being co-opted and undermined by the US government. And on the other hand, you have this budding right-wing movement that is going to turn into the moral majority and eventually gradually become QAnon. I skipped over a lot of stuff there, but there is a through line here.
If viewers today are watching the show, they should pay real attention to Ralph Kane because this is the future of America.
People like to complain now. Everyone is so polarized and they don't listen to each other and everyone lives in a bubble. And it's like, well, America's been like that for a while.
What I also thought was that Ralph Kane serves a vaguely similar function on this show as Dale Gribble does on King of the Hill.
Open up your eyes, man. They're trying to control global warming. Get it? Global.
It's a good thing that Hank Hill has the routine autism and not the conspiracy theory autism. And before anyone says anything, I have autism, I can say that.
We also have Joan Gerber as Irma Boyle.
I got your statement this morning, and you are wrong. How can I be overdrawn when I've still got 3 checks left?
Joan was a voice actress from Detroit who worked on dozens of animated shows, movies, and specials from the 1960s to the 2000s, many of them from Hanna-Barbera. Arguably, Irma Boyle was Joan's most famous character, but she also worked on
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, DuckTales, Charlotte's Web, Rescue Rangers, The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat, Harry Nilsson's The Point, and too many more to mention.
Joan died at the age of 76 in 2011. Peter, what did you think of Joan Gerber as Irma Boyle?
The opening sets her up as the comedy ditzy housewife, and then she spends the rest of the episode being the more sensible, down-to-earth comedy housewife. It's a necessary role. Somebody has to be the more reasonable one compared to Harry, but also it's not like a super fun role.
Somebody had to play this character, and Joan was obviously being instructed to make her voice sound as much like Gene Stapleton as Edith Bunker as possible. She really bites down on words like Harry. Here's a weird coincidence. There were actually 2 animated shows trying to capitalize on All in the Family in the 1970s. The other one was called The Barkleys, and it presents the characters as anthropomorphic dogs, but otherwise it's the exact same show as Wait Till Your Father Gets Home. And Joan Gerber is also the mom on that show.
Oh, wow.
We've got to fix that toaster. Do you hear me, Arnie Barkley?
She's playing both sides, so she always comes out on top.
We also have Christina Holland as Alice Boyle.
Oh, thanks, Daddy. I was afraid you'd say no. I'll call Bob first thing in the morning.
Christina was an actress from Fayetteville, North Carolina, who worked on dozens of TV series, both live action and animated, from the 1960s to the 1990s. Besides Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, she's probably best known as Tina Rickles on The Courtship of Eddie's Father. She was also a regular on Hanna-Barbera's Funky Phantom. Her other credits include Kolchak the Night Stalker, The Bob Newhart Show, Mod Squad, and Here Come the Brides. She later retired from acting, got her PhD, and became a psychotherapist. Psychotherapy. Christina died in 2023 at the age of 78. Peter, what did you think of Christina Holland as Alice Boyle?
Obviously, Harry is ultimately proven to be in the right in this episode, and hippies are scum. But I will say that Alice did not feel too much like a straw man. Obviously, there are moments where she's going, our generation realizes how worthless money is, where we are supposed to roll our eyes and go, oh, that stupid teenager. But throughout the episode, she does have good reasons for why she feels she should be allowed to go away for the weekend. And she does get the moment where it becomes clear that Harry doesn't know anything when she has to fight off this seemingly clean-cut boy who is actually a predator. She's not as much of an exaggeration as she could have been, and she's not entirely a stereotypical teenage girl.
Christina Holland actually does a lot to make Alice Boyle a likable character. Sometimes Alice is being used as an example of what's wrong with America's teenagers, and she's presented as being naive and foolish, but Christina actually invests the character with some humanity and warmth, and she makes the character more likable than maybe the script does. We also have David Lander as Bob.
And they gotta listen to us, because the government is responsible to us taxpayers.
We talked about David's career when we covered Fonzie's Funeral Part 2. To summarize, David was a Brooklyn actor best known as Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley. He was also in the comedy troupe The Credibility Gap with his friend Michael McKean. Love and the Old-Fashioned Father was just one of David's many, many voice acting roles. In 1970, for example, he was the title character on Will the Real Jerry Lewis Please Sit Down? He's also one of the Weasels in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. David died in 2020 at the age of 73 after a long battle with multiple sclerosis. Peter, what did you think of David Lander as Bob?
Bob is the ultimate caricature of a hippie. I don't know how the writers and directors felt about hippies, but they are obviously playing to an audience that hates them. He's got the shag vest and the pants, and he's got the hair and the porn stash, and he greets Harry by giving him a flower, and he just yammers on about love, and he eats all the hors d'oeuvres, and he's condescending to Mary. He is the worst, and David Lander really plays into that and kind of makes him fun for that reason.
Bob is a complete straw man, but David Lander plays the part so over the top that it's really fun to listen to. David Lander was such an adept comic actor that he can take this very stereotypical role and really make something fun out of it. We also have David Hayward as Chet Boyle.
Keep it up, Papa, so help me. I'm going to join the army.
This was a rare voice acting role for David, who's been working mainly in television from the late 1960s to the present. He's in the Robert Altman movie Nashville, plus the series
ER, Criminal Minds, Family Matters, Quantum Leap, Beverly Hills 90210, 90210 and more.
As far as I know, David is still alive and working. Peter, what did you think of David Hayward as Chet Boyle?
So since this pilot mostly focuses on Harry and Alice, Chet doesn't really get a ton to do. Alice does kind of get some depth. Chet really is just there to be like, what's wrong with the kids today? I will say that I did find it funny that apparently he is unemployed, but early in the episode he leaves to go work with the poor. And is he doing that on a volunteer basis? Does he actually have a job, albeit a low-paying one? Or is he just doing this on his own? Which probably is not very helpful, actually. What's the story there?
That is never answered, not even on the subsequent series, when he goes away to work in what he calls the ghetto.
On the cold and gray Chicago moon, another little baby child is born in the ghetto.
We never see any of that. He's just gone. Once again, Chet is used mostly as a straw man in this episode. He's this lazy bum who hangs around his room and sponges off his parents and then has the nerve to lecture them about morality or politics. David Hayward plays the role fine, I guess. He says his lines adequately. We get more Chet in the series. They develop the character more fully there. We only get a little hint of who Chet is from this pilot. We should also mention Ernestine Wade from Amos and Andy as the maid, Mary, and character actors Sidney Miller and Mitzi McCall as Carol's parents. Mitzi was also a voice actress on The Fonz and the Happy Days gang. Peter, what did you think of the scene with Carol's parents?
Their role is to contrast with the more staid Boyles. They are dressed in these exaggerated fashions, and Harry pretty blatantly finds them repulsive. They are admittedly a lot of fun. I was very much reminded of Amy Poehler in Mean Girls. They're not parents, they're cool parents.
So, you guys, what is the 411?
That is definitely meant to contrast with Harry, who is supposed to be the old-fashioned type. Like, they're so permissive that they don't even care about their daughter's sex life, as opposed to Harry, who refuses to let that happen for Alice.
They're obviously an example of what not to do, but Sidney and Mitzi make the characters so fun that this ends up being one of the more funny and entertaining scenes in the entire episode, even if these are supposed to be quote-unquote bad parents.
And I will say that regarding Ernestine Wade as Mary, there is something mildly uncomfortable about two white writers and two white directors using this black character as a mouthpiece.
He's always so busy trying to liberate me, I can't get anything done.
As for the music in this episode, it's by Hoyt Curtin, Hanna-Barbera's primary in-house composer. We talked about Hoyt's career when we covered The Fonz and the Happy Days gang, which is one of dozens of series that Hoyt worked on. Peter, what did you think of Hoyt's music for this show?
I always like Hoyt Curtin's music. This is no exception. I think it's bouncy and fun when it needs to be, and it is quieter and more somber also when it needs to be, and it does lend some legitimacy to the moment at the end where Harry and Alice reconcile. And I also really loved the noisy rock music that Chet is listening to. It is just pure noise.
Breakfast.
That is what all rock music sounded like to 50-somethings in 1971.
Hoyt has a lot of fun with this music. His music actually helps to make the episode even more enjoyable. When Sam Johnson's son first appears, we hear Far Above Cayuga's Waters. The alma mater of Cornell University and numerous other colleges and high schools, including the one that I graduated from. The melody comes from the 1857 ballad Annie Lyle. Before we leave the subject of music, I have to point out that since this is an episode of Love American Style, we get to hear the Love American Style theme song by Charles Fox and Norman Gimbel. What do you think of that song, Peter?
What can I say? It makes me proud to be an American. We don't just love, we love American style.
It's a really goofy but very catchy song. Whenever I hear it, I think of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 parody of Love American Style.
The a cappella version.
As for the cultural and historical references in this episode, Harry says, we ain't exactly the King family. The King family was a multi-generational musical act from Provo, Utah, who performed extensively on television and on record in the 1960s and 70s.
And here they are, the fabulous King sisters. Alvino Ray, Bob Clark, the swinging King cousins, the unpredictable King kiddies, and all the other aunts, uncles, nephews, and nieces who go to make up America's first family of song, the King family. Happy holiday.
They made their national debut on the Hollywood Palace in 1964, which led to countless specials and albums over the next few years. To this day, the Kings have an official Facebook account and YouTube channel celebrating their musical heritage.
So were they the poor man's Osmonds, or were they the proto-Osmonds?
I would say proto-Osmonds. I think there's a reason why their music is not widely remembered today, and it's because they appealed to people who were already old in the 1960s and who are dead now, and whose music does not inspire a lot of nostalgia among the younger generation. What I found is that if you go to thrift shops and places that have old vinyl records, you're thinking, oh, they're going to have a bunch of Beatles and Stones and Dylan, and they don't. What they have is Mantovani and Ray Conniff and 101 Strings and the King family.
The stuff that nobody wants to keep or collect.
Harry refers to Chet as Shirley Temple because of his long hair.
Because your mother gave birth to a son, and I'd like to see a boy around the house, not Shirley Temple.
Shirley was a major child star of the mid to late 1930s, starring in such films as Bright Eyes, Curly Top, and Heidi. Her shoulder-length hair, always carefully styled into ringlets, became her trademark. I did not love the Shirley Temple joke, but what did you think of it?
It's kind of nonsensical because Chet's hair is long and straight and red, and like Shirley Temple famously had little blonde ringlets. So you don't know what Shirley Temple looked like, Harry.
If you watch movies and television shows from the 1960s and 1970s, you see how much people freaked out over men with long hair. Like this was the first time in human history that men had ever had long hair. And if you go back in history, you find that that's the opposite of true.
Men used to wear makeup and have elaborate wigs.
Every sitcom and sketch show and stand-up comedian did a joke about, boy, with the men wearing their hair long, you can't tell the boys from the girls nowadays.
Bob Seger has a song, Turn the Page. There's an entire verse about being on the road and stopping in small towns and having people make fun of him and his bandmates for having long hair. Is that a woman or a man? People were so weird about that, and now they're weird about things in a whole new way.
Harry says he's starring in a new version of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. This was a very successful 1967 drama starring Spencer Tracy, Sidney Poitier, and Katharine Hepburn. The plot concerns a white couple whose daughter shocks them by telling them she is engaged to a black man.
I love your daughter. There is nothing I wouldn't do to try to keep her as happy as she was the day I met her. But it seems to me, without your approval, we will make no sense at all.
It was made at a time when interracial marriage had just become legal in all 50 states. What do you think of that movie, and what did you think of this reference?
I think it's a movie where you can tell that it was made for white people who were uncomfortable with it. Every time I watch it, I'm struck by the scene where Sidney Poitier yells at his dad. It's like, that's not very nice. Don't yell at your dad.
Harry says $4,000 a year, and she lands Tiny Tim. New York-born crooner Tiny Tim, real name Herbert Corey, became a pop culture sensation, both loved and hated in the late 1960s. He was especially known for his long hair, high-pitched singing voice, and strange androgynous manner. What did you think of the Tiny Tim joke?
Bob doesn't really look like Tiny Tim at all. I think Harry might just be reaching there.
Just like Chet doesn't look like Shirley Temple, Bob doesn't look like Tiny Tim or act like him. He doesn't sound like him. I'm not sure where Harry is getting his references.
Where are you getting these units of measurement from?
By the way, do you notice that Harry makes a lot of snarky pop culture references?
He does. Yeah, I guess that's what differentiates him from Archie Bunker.
He makes a lot of catty pop culture references, usually to be mean and insult the people around him. Harry says, and I might be Lawrence of Arabia. He's referring to David Lean's lavish Oscar-winning 1962 film about the life of British Army officer T.E. Lawrence, played by Peter O'Toole. The film was a critical and commercial sensation, winning Best Picture and inspiring countless parodies. I've only ever seen it on television, so I can't really feel like I can appreciate it, because they say to really appreciate it, you have to see it on the big screen. But what is your experience with Lawrence of Arabia?
I still have not seen it yet, surprisingly.
I'm more familiar with the parodies. I remember a milk commercial called Lost Milk of Arabia. Bob makes a disparaging reference to the so-called silent majority.
They named you right, silent majority.
This was a term coined in 1969 by Richard Nixon to describe the millions of Americans who tacitly supported the Vietnam War. Is that a term that's still known to people today, silent majority?
I think people still know it, yeah, but I don't think it's really applicable anymore, because the internet has made it so that everyone is loud about everything all of the time.
Bob also says, "We shall overcome." He's referring to the 1940s gospel song that became an anthem of the civil rights movement of the 1960s.
It's a very uncomfortable scene. I'm not saying that a lot of white hippies weren't very condescending towards black people, obviously, but written by two white guys, directed by two white guys, yeah.
They're using the scene to make Bob look bad.
And I guess maybe tacitly imply that most black people don't care about that and are fine with the way things are.
I guess.
I plan to go down and live for a whole year in the black ghetto. Well,
There goes the neighborhood.
Bob and Alice plan to go water skiing with another couple, Ted and Carol. This is a reference to the hit 1969 film Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, directed by Paul Mazursky and starring Robert Culp, Diane Cannon, Elliot Gould, and Natalie Wood.
You are trying to make me react again. You feel guilty, and you're trying to make me punish you.
Terrible thing. I cheated.
It's about a California couple who attend a retreat and then start getting involved in the lives of another couple. The poster famously depicted all four of these people in bed together. Harry calls Alice's date a regular Pat Boone. Pat is the Florida-born pop singer who became a major star in the 1950s and 60s with hits like April Love and Love Letters in the Sand. Pat is deeply religious and family-oriented, and he carefully cultivated a squeaky clean, wholesome image that set him apart from other pop singers of the era.
My favorite Pat Boone fun fact is that during a Kentucky gubernatorial election in the Aughties, he personally sent out voicemails to people saying like, hey, don't vote for the Democrat or they'll turn Kentucky into San Francisco with all the gay people.
Ralph and Harry exchange a lot of quick yas and huhs in their conversation.
They sure got funny ideas, huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
This is a direct reference to a recurring bit that comedian Jack Burns did with his comedy partner Avery Schreiber. In the routines, Schreiber would play a weary New York cabbie and Burns would play his overly talkative customer.
What do they call that? The Big Apple?
Yeah. The apple.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense that the scene where Ralph and Harry are in the car and Ralph is kind of dominating the conversation is probably a reference to that.
I thought it was nice that they let Jack Burns do one of his signature bits on the show. It reminded me of when they brought Bob and Ray onto Happy Days, and Bob and Ray got to do variations on some of their signature bits. So, Peter, were there any outstanding Hanna-Barbera fashions in Love and the Old-Fashioned Father?
Well, I can tell you what isn't. So Chet, as we have mentioned, is a redhead, and yet he is wearing a bright pink shirt. Chet, you cannot do that. That is a fashion faux pas. Red hair and pink do not go together.
What did you think of the outfits that the groovy parents were wearing?
Oh, I loved them. So Mrs. Harris is wearing hot pants and this kind of poofy shirt and an ascot. And Mr. Harris is wearing this Austin Powers outfit. He's got this very elaborate jacket and these stripy pants. I think he's also wearing an ascot. And I love it. And I love his glasses too. Harry, I know you don't get it, but this is now. This is happening. This is happening now.
I noticed that Harry's design is as generic and basic as possible, and I thought this made him a template for later animated dads like Peter Griffin and Hank Hill and Homer Simpson. They just want to look like generic suburban dads.
It makes the character simpler for the animators.
Harry has almost no distinguishing features. They just try to put him in the most plain outfits possible.
With clothes that suggest the general idea of a person.
So, Peter, did you have any other observations you wanted to make about Love and the Old-Fashioned Father?
So I've seen Wait Till Your Father Gets Home described as the first adult animated series, and that kind of got me wondering about when did we start clearly delineating what animation is for kids and what animation is for adults? Because for decades, it would have been watched by everybody. Cartoons used to be shown in theaters before feature-length movies, and those movies were generally for everybody. This was before you had stuff like the rating system. Instead, you had the Production Code Administration monitoring everything so that it was safe for everyone. It wouldn't offend everybody. Nobody would talk about sex. Violence wouldn't be too violent. The Catholic Church was always shown in a pretty positive light because the head of the production code was a very intense Irish Catholic man. You kind of saw a change with the fall of the production code, with the idea of different ratings for different age groups, delineating what was appropriate for them. And on the one hand, you have television. You did kind of gradually see different shows meant to appeal to different age demographics, especially in the 1950s with the birth of the teenager as a specific demographic that could be marketed to. Even on television with cartoons like the Flintstones, that was a primetime animated show that everyone would have been watching, adults and kids. When it started out, it was just the Honeymooners, but animated. And that meant that it focused on adults with adult problems, but in a way that wasn't child unfriendly. They don't really talk about sex, even though obviously Fred and Wilma, they're married. Pebbles had to come from somewhere. And on the topic of Pebbles, the show probably got more kid-oriented when Pebbles and Bam Bam became part of the cast. So what makes Wait Till Your Father Gets Home specifically adults? Well, it's the fact that sex is bluntly brought up. The central conflict of this episode is that if Alice goes on this water skiing weekend away, illicit sex will happen. And if you're a woman with the uterus, then illicit sex will result in unplanned out-of-wedlock pregnancy, and Harry does not want that to happen. This entire show is generally from Harry's perspective, and he is a middle-aged man. This is a show about a middle-aged man with middle-aged man problems, and he's not too fond of teenagers. If you go to clips of this show online, you will find comments from people being like, I watched the show as a kid and I didn't really get it, but I liked it.
So, Peter, I will ask that age-old timeless question. Was this episode any good?
I would say that it taught me a lot about where people were in the 1970s. It did also give me a lot to think about in terms of animation and demographics and who it was aimed at. Did I enjoy it? I don't know. And I don't know if it really necessarily made me want to seek out the entire series. So,
I would say this is more interesting than it is good. It is certainly a curio from another time. It is certainly a milestone in TV history. It's interesting to think about the issues being raised and how they were handled on television in 1972. But on the other hand, most of the jokes in this are really, really corny. Would you say that the jokes are kind of corny and creaky and old-fashioned?
Yes. Which is fitting for an old-fashioned father.
The later adult animated shows were a lot looser with the writing and more creative with it. And this is very much an old-fashioned traditional sitcom, and it has kind of dusty, dated takes on a lot of these issues. So it's not a really funny show. Did you find yourself laughing that much?
Not really, no.
I didn't laugh much either. So as a comedy, I don't think it's very successful. But as a historical curio, I think people should at least check out one episode. And if you're just going to check out one, why not this one? So, Peter, how can people keep up with us and find out about all the wonderful things that we are doing?
Listeners can follow us on thesedayshours.libsyn.com.
And they can email us with questions, comments, and concerns at thesedaysarhourspodcast@gmail.com. So, Peter, what do we have on the docket the next time we get together?
We have been spending a lot of time in the early 70s lately, and I want to change that. I wanted to talk about a movie from 1988, written by Lowell Gans and Babalu Mandel, who worked extensively on Happy Days, and it's a movie starring Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum as a couple of psychics going on an adventure, and it is called Vibes.
Cyndi Lauper, Jeff Goldblum in Vibes, a psychic comedy that's out of its mind, rated PG, opens Friday at select theaters.
Oh, Peter, what an eccentric choice. I am excited already, so see you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.
I sent my daughter to the very best school, joined the country club with a swimming pool. I wanted a doctor or a lawyer for my daughter, but she only dated bums, didn't have a quarter. She went with a poet, didn't have a cent. Next it was our drummer, couldn't pay his rent. You think that's bad? Well, it really ain't. 'Cause then she met a painter, couldn't even paint. She dated 16 bums, and what do I get? A son-in-law beating it with a guitar yet. They better call soon if they need some dough. I'm going to Miami 'cause the business is slow. Da, 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 da.